wouldn't know. I know it's a lot. I wouldn't know. I have one. I have an external drive with 1 terabyte. That's and my laptop as well is my MacBook is also 1 terabyte. I think.
So that would mean that it's 15 of your.
Yeah, I can count it in MacBooks. I can count it in.
This is a case of I have been checking out for the longest because I thought it was a very interesting case when it was revealed what happened. But I don't think we ever talked about it during the show. So it's a good thing that we can still highlight it after the verdict, or at least the dismissal, another dismissal of a huge accusation case. So we're talking about Eric Sim. This was one of the shocking legal turnarounds. It's probably one of the biggest ones we will see so far, unless they turn around all those 20 cases by Diddy. Eric Sim is a former NASA engineer who was accused of assaying multiple women he met on dating apps between 2019 and 2023. We are talking about 6 women that came forward claiming that they were victims. Houston police even said there might be more, but now every charge has been dropped. Of course, let's take a look. Fair use. Forgot to show another video in the previous part, but
we have covered extensively. 7 charges against a former NASA engineer dismissed today, just 2 days before the trial is set to begin.
Yeah, former District Attorney Kim Ogg even held a press conference last year seeking other victims. Now all the charges dropped. Reporter Micah Hatfield was the first to break the story on the charges last year, joining us live now this afternoon with the latest development. Micah, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. Certainly, it seems shocking from the outside, but not to Eric Sim's attorney. And in speaking with District Attorney Sean Tier earlier, he seems very confident in the decision to dismiss all 7 charges.
From day one with you and others, I've said that these are false allegations and we will win this case.
Not something defense attorney Neil Davis says that he says often, but in the case of his client Eric Sim, he believed if someone reviewed the evidence in the case, they would think differently of the initial allegations.
We had over 5 terabytes of data to go through. And so we're dismissing the cases about 11 months after we filed the first ones. And that's because we did our due diligence.
Sim, now 38 years old, was accused by 7 women he met on dating apps of just a few dates in. Many of the sexual encounters were recorded without the women's knowledge, according to authorities. Newly elected District Attorney Sean Tier was not with the DA's office when the decision was made to charge Sim last March, but he says it was the right thing to do at the time.
When you talk about multiple victims and you talk about the predatory behavior that was exhibited in every one of these different cases, it made sense to file the charges to prevent any future victims.
Today, 6 of the cases were dismissed against the former NASA engineer, citing that there was not proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and 1 was dropped by the request of the complainant, according to court records. Tier says they got to a point where they knew they couldn't prove the cases, so they had an obligation to dismiss them. That being said, Tier says Sim showed what he called predatory behavior in every one of the cases.
But to get to the level of sexual assault, we need some definitive proof. And this is not in any way casting aspersions on the survivors or saying that we don't believe them.
There may be things about his dating that wasn't likable to them. He went out with a lot of women. He wasn't the best at breaking up with women. Sometimes he would just move on to another lady or whatever. But at the end of the day, what he did wasn't criminal.
And that was our Micah Hatfield reporting.
Crazy. Was he falsely accused? Is the justice system failing, or is there something else going on out here? Let's break this down because this is one of the craziest twists out there. Audrey.
So, if I understand correctly, it was just an issue of evidence. One-on-one. It's
issue.
I always say that these.
In what way?
What?
You said it's an issue of evidence. or not being evidence or having too much evidence?
Apparently, because they're saying that there wasn't reasonable doubt, right? It wasn't. They had the
Continue.
confession. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I always try to make people remember in cases like this. And of course, guys, remember to rate the show by pressing the like button, follow us on our other socials, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification icon as well. But what I was saying is the following here. In cases like this, you need to have all the evidence has to be there, and there shouldn't be like any doubt. Now I understand that there were six cases. One of them was dropped by one of there were seven, and one of them was dropped by one of the alleged victims. So remains 6. Now I have read somewhere, I believe, that there were even, there were a lot. But
The guy was slinging. He was slinging it around.
What?
I said the guy was slinging it around.
That doesn't seem like it is that's in dispute. But to say that someone
Continue.
But to say that someone is, let's say, slinging it around, slinging it around in itself is not punishable.
Yeah.
It's when you assay someone that it's punishable. And the cases weren't started because he was slinging it. The cases were around because they are alleging that he was slinging it, and forcing the victims to take it in the eye. And that's like the issue. It's not like if it's slinging in itself. So, but anyways, KaiR, you have more information, I guess. So,
Yes. So we're talking about Eric Sim, 38-year-old, who was a respected NASA engineer. But in early 2024, his life completely fell apart when multiple women accused him of SA. Police and prosecutors publicly called in for more victims to come forward. By the end of the investigation, 6 women came forward and had spoken out. Sim was arrested on February 29th and hit with 2 charges of SAs, and was later released on a massive bond of $500,000. But things got wilder. After months of reviewing the evidence, the Harris County District Attorney Office just announced that they are dropping all charges. Why? Because they say there was not enough proof beyond reasonable doubt. Even though they had 15 terabytes. One of the things I can tell you, RJ, he was recording everything that happened in the home.
he too?
He was recording everything. Maybe for rewatch purposes, not sure. But this is what clearly saved his life. Because he was recording every encounter. 15 terabytes. You know how much that is?
I wouldn't know. I know it's a lot. I wouldn't know. I have an external drive with 1 terabyte. That's and my laptop as well my MacBook is also 1 terabyte, I think.
So that would mean that it's 15 of your.
Yeah, I can count it in MacBooks. I can count it in.
But imagine, right? That's the evidence. This man had his own. He can start his own OF, technically speaking. During this process, he was also accused of recording people against them knowing. But I guess they didn't pursue that because that was the evidence that hey, it is what it is.
He did this to me, but don't show it.
Yeah, he did it against my will, but It shows that he didn't anything against my will. Anyway, so this is where we are. Eric Sims is
But
a
why KR?
ex-NASA engineer.
My question is, maybe you'll talk about it a little bit later on, but why did 7 people start cases again? So why were
So
they
let's
jealous
say-
and then said,
think-
hey, you
I
know
think-
what,
I
let's
think-
get our revenge?
So let's say this, RJ, and we've seen that it's been multiple cases in the past as well. I think we've talked about this in other cases where, let's say, the lack of proper offboarding, aka
Care
a
package.
care package, lack of care package, gets you in trouble. His lawyer said it himself. Let me go back. If I can see if I can get to that part where his lawyer says this. Is this part?
About his, there may be things about his dating that wasn't likable to them. He went out with a lot of women. He wasn't the best at breaking up with women. Sometimes he would just move on to another lady or whatever. But at the end of the day, what he did wasn't criminal.
So you're dealing with, in this case, to me, if I just listen and I'll follow it a little bit, it seems like this guy was just banging and ghosting.
Pump and dump.
That's pump and dump. And hit. Let's take a look at him. Let me see if I can find a picture of him.
If he was pumping and dumping, you know which YouTube channel he was watching.
Oh, man. Look at him. A NASA engineer. He doesn't look like a typical player. So
Yeah.
women would go there, look at him, think he's a NASA engineer, he's a nerd. And before you know it, you're between the sheets, taking it, and then the next day he ghosts you. You feel violated. Some people feel violated in those situations.
Yeah. But then they got together and file the case together. They
No, you
all
know
came
how
up-
it goes. Another
One
thing,
person
we've talked
starts
about
it,
this.
Yeah.
We've talked about this in the past as well. As soon as one starts filing, the other things, hey, maybe I feel violated as well. Maybe I was S8 as well, even though that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
I think this is a clear case of the typical careless package, careless handling of people's emotions.